So here's a good one for you. What do a professional safecracker, a world-class bongo player, and a Nobel Prize-winning physicist all have in common? I know, it sounds like the setup to a really weird joke, right? But today, we're going to dive into the mind of the one man who was all three, the absolutely brilliant and endlessly curious Richard Feynman.
No, really, just think about that for a second. A guy who could break into top-secret government safes, a musician good enough to play in a Brazilian samba school, and one of the greatest scientific minds of the 20th century. It just doesn't seem possible that could all be the same person.
But it was. It was all Richard Feynman. And if you want to understand how he pulled it all off, you have to understand the unique way he approached, well, everything. It was a mindset built on just this relentless curiosity and a deep, deep need to understand things from the very beginning.
So where did a mind like that come from? Well, to figure that out, we have to go all the way back to a kid in Far Rockaway, New York. A kid who was never satisfied just knowing the answer to something. No, he had to build it, he had to test it, he had to completely own it from the ground up.
For the young Feynman, learning wasn't some quiet activity you did with a book. It was a hands-on, get your fingers dirty, often messy process. He had to think with his hands, taking things apart just to see how they actually worked.
So while other kids were outside playing, Feynman was holed up in his little home lab, surrounded by wires and circuits. He actually became the neighborhood's go-to guy for fixing broken radios. But here's the thing, he wasn't just messing around, swapping parts and hoping for the best. He was developing a method.
And it was a really powerful one. Instead of just random tinkering, the first thing he would do is just sit and think. He'd analyze the problem logically, form a little theory, a hypothesis, about what was wrong. And then he'd systematically test every single part until he found the problem. See, the goal wasn't just a working radio, it was to completely understand why it broke in the first place.
And this really gets to the heart of what drove him. For Feynman, the real joy, the real kick, was the mental puzzle itself. Actually fixing the radio, that was just the satisfying proof at the end that his thinking was right.
This need to build knowledge from scratch was just constant. Get this, when he first ran into trigonometry, he thought the notation sine x was totally illogical. It looked like s times I times n times x. So what did he do? He just invented his own symbols and proved all the theorems himself. By doing that, he wasn't just learning formulas, he was discovering the deep connections between them. He owned that knowledge in a way that just memorizing never could.
Now, this way of thinking didn't just stay in his childhood lab. It followed him to one of the most secret and high-stakes projects in human history, the Manhattan Project. And at Los Alamos, his unique kind of genius was about to face a very, very different kind of test.
Okay, so picture it. At Los Alamos, you have the most sensitive information on the planet, the research that would literally change the world. And all of it was locked away in these heavy-duty filing cabinets. The security was supposed to be completely airtight, but Feynman saw something that nobody else did. He realized that any system designed by humans is gonna have human flaws.
Feynman figured out that the locks and the steel doors were only part of the security system. The weakest link? It was just human nature. People wrote down their combinations, they left keys in drawers, they used predictable codes. And for Feynman, this wasn't a security flaw, it was a fascinating puzzle.
So there was this one physicist, Friedrich de Hoffmann, who was super serious and just positive his safe was secure. He basically scoffed at the idea that his top-secret papers were vulnerable. And Feynman, with that playful curiosity of his, just couldn't resist a challenge like that.
So Feynman didn't try to force the lock. He used psychology. He applied the same logic he used on the radios. What's the system, and what's its weakest point? He figured a physicist like de Hoffmann would probably choose a fundamental constant of nature for his combination. So he tried pi. Nothing. Then he tried the base of the natural logarithm, e. He dialed in 27, 18, 28, and click. The cabinet door swung open. He hadn't cracked the safe. He had cracked the physicist.
But Feynman's incredible curiosity wasn't just for physics and security systems. Nope, he applied that same first principles thinking, that same joyful sense of exploration, to pretty much every part of his life.
And he wasn't just dabbling either. I mean, whether it was learning to draw, playing music, or trying to crack Mayan hieroglyphs, he attacked every single new subject with this incredible intensity. He was always determined to understand it from the inside out.
A great example is the frigideira. It's this small, deceptively simple percussion instrument they use in samba music. Feynman didn't just learn to play it. He deconstructed its super complex rhythms until they became totally intuitive for him. He practiced so relentlessly that he was soon chosen over a bunch of seasoned local musicians for a huge performance.
His journey from total outsider to expert was complete. When a new musician wanted to join their group, the leader just pointed over at Feynman and said, "Go learn from the Americano." He hadn't just learned how to play, he had become the standard.
So what is it? What's the thread that connects the safecracker, the samba player, and the scientist? It all comes down to a single, powerful philosophy that drove every single thing Feynman did.
Feynman was famously against what he called cargo cult science. It's basically when people go through all the motions. They've got the lab coats, the fancy equipment, the big words, but they're missing the most important part, a real commitment to rigorous, honest, self-critical thinking. It's the difference between knowing the name of a bird and knowing everything about the bird.
And for Feynman, this was it. This was the ultimate truth. The Nobel Prize, the fame, all the awards, that stuff was all secondary. The real reward, the thing that drove him from fixing radios in his bedroom to unlocking the secrets of the universe, was the pure, unfiltered joy of discovery.
So, that kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it? For just a minute, forget about what you're supposed to know. What's one thing in your life that you could try to understand the Feynman way? Something you could take apart, question everything about, and rebuild from the ground up, just for the pleasure of truly understanding it.